It's recording. And I'll record on this. 2 recordings. Okay, so the 28th. Good morning. You're with your host, Kathy, from Get Chatty with Kathy. And we are continuing our conversation from last week. I have Toby here, where we're talking about National Indigenous Peoples Day. And he's helping me kind of reach into a little bit of a deeper side of this conversation. We're going deep into the onion layers of why, where did this stem from? Why are we celebrating this? So about a month ago, I was on my phone with Toby driving through the mountains of BC, and he was talking to me about the why. But one of the things that he made me do was to start from the beginning. He talked about things that I hadn't really listened or heard before. So what I'm talking about is a lot of the history that happened here in Saskatchewan that many people, like from my generation, weren't educated about. When we learned about history, if you're in my demographic of early 40s, we in history class learned about Christopher Columbus, how wonderful he was. That was my history lesson. Mm-hmm. But I was lucky enough to work at the U of R, where they gave me a lot of education about Indigenous history, the real history. But today I wanted to have a real conversation about maybe what is actually real, because what I was taught and what actually happened, I would probably guess is different. But before we go there, Toby, could you just give us a brief synopsis of who you are? I know that's really deep, but what your personal mission is these days, because I can tell it's resonating in me what you're doing.
Nonaskaman magwech ai maski gi maskwa wasa soma gonna ashapyo. How we greet ourselves in our way of life. Remember, a way of life is just like when you get up in the morning and you brush your teeth, you jump in the shower, you get ready for your day, and you have something to eat, and you wear certain clothes for certain things, right? That's your way of life. You see, that's a way of life. So ceremony, the context of ceremony is a European concept. You see?
To celebrate a day.
Celebrate an event, a day, a person, a thing. Our way of life is you celebrate your life as a human every single day. You celebrate your father and mother every single day because they're the ones that are now guiding you and helping you. You celebrate your birthday every single day, the birth of yourself coming into reality in this life. You celebrate that every day, you see? So we don't have days like that, you see? And let's say when we use our aspagan, our tool, our pipe, we don't actually would call that a pipe ceremony in my understanding and concept, because every family had the responsibility to speak to Creator. And every family, every mother and child, and every family had a unique gift to be able to do that. So you would recognize that in your family, that person, right? And then you would now hold that person up to say, you would communicate to the ones that have now passed on and moved. And that would be one of your responsibilities. So see, responsibilities rather than, let's say, rites and rituals that come out of that dogmatic view of shamanism that comes from, Europe, right? That Europe context
Totally.
of shamanism that we've been kind of now painted on, right? Remember, we're children of the earth, right? We all are. So that means there is an understanding of being human. There's an understanding of walking with earth, right? And it should be your way of life, not a particular thing to do at a particular time. Yes, because we did the same thing, but we used the universe as our time schedule.
So June 21st, for instance.
Yes, and that's significant for us as well. June 21st is what?
Summer solstice.
Summer solstice. So the solstices and equinoxes play a big part in our quarters.
So really, it wasn't really 21st is a special day because it's June 21st. It was because the sun was having its quarter then, and that's why we were like there. And if the sun had been maybe in a different place, that wouldn't have been summer solstice day then.
Well, you got to understand your Gregorian calendar is out
Yes.
of whack to begin with.
That's true too.
Right? Your Gregorian calendar is just off
Totally.
basis, because there's 13 months in a year, right? That we understand. And there's 28 days to each one of those 13 months.
Got off.
So that means that even in this contextual understanding of June 21st,
What
it
is
is
June
still
21st?
wrong.
Yes, you're right.
It's still wrong to us.
So even making National Indigenous Peoples Day June 21st is almost like us making a square into a circle again.
You could almost say that.
Anyways,
Yes.
we're gonna just move past that.
Okay,
We
so-
have this day now, and why is it an important day?
So if we get back to June 21st, okay, June 21st, and we recognize that through the Gregorian calendar, but most of us that follow the old ways, we know there's 13 months, so we know when that happens, and we know what the significance of information that comes from the sun. So remember our four elements. Okay, what are our four elements? You tell me.
Wind.
And where do you, wind, yeah. Air,
Air, yes.
yeah.
Water.
Water,
Fire, I'm assuming.
fire,
And
don't assume,
earth.
and earth, right?
Yes.
See?
I did okay.
Yes, for a human being, you know who you are.
Thank
That's
goodness.
good. It's a fundamental basis.
I
right?
thought you were going to tell me north, south, east, and west.
But that's now to our Neheo understanding, or to the understanding of the human. Okay, so I always I try to get out of labeling, right? It's Neheo, or it's this or that. Remember, we're having a human experience. Okay, so if we can get out of that last one, it was site specific, right? Site specific to, let's say, Neheo or anything else. If we can get out of that site specific and get into the humanity of things, then we can learn off each other a lot quicker than the dogmatic views of site specifically how we did things. So I try to go to more of a universal context of self so people can follow along and understand, because we're all the same.
Yes.
So reconciliation, that's a big word now, right? So reconciliation, to me, okay, is reconciliating with yourself first and foremost, looking in the mirror first. So where was I? Where was my father? Where was my mother? Where was his father? Where was his mother? Where was his mother? Where's his father? And you go right back to when your family came to a shore on our great, beautiful continent.
Yeah.
And when your family came ashore on this great, beautiful continent, what did they do? How did they act? What did they believe in? And how did they show respect and understanding to the earth, you see, and to the people that live there? So that's reconciliation, you understand?
Yeah.
Showing and understanding that you did the work, you see? It's why it's a buzzword is because I believe the government is circumventing their responsibilities. And some of the responsibilities is to now reconcile the government. You see, the whole government. Where were you when these things happened?
Yes.
What did you do when you started the Indian Act? How did you reconcile when you started the residential schools? What did you do when these people came to fruition and now are a part of 80-some% of the jails?
Yes.
Right? 80-some% of the healthcare is now on the First Nations. We support and lift up all these institutions for a reason. So because of these things happening, right, reconciliation to us isn't an apology. It's really looking back at who you are and where you came from. At a certain point in time, every human being that was living in our territory, one day the Indian was, and I can say Indian, why? Because that is the original when a mister came over in 1492, blah, 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 the ocean blue. When he came over, he called us Indios.
Because he thought you guys were Indians from India.
No,
I thought that was what it was.
That's propaganda. Again, terrible propaganda.
But that's what I was taught.
Well, of course you were, because it's propaganda. You see, when he came over, Spanish came over, Indios. What does that mean? That means indigenous in Spanish. The people that live here.
Of the land.
The people that live here, Indios. And when the French came over and came to the wooden boat people, came to the north in our northern territory, they called us La Sauvage. And La Sauvage, what do you think that means?
I don't know French.
Okay, well, La Sauvage was supposed to
water.
be the savage people. The people that were savage, that are savage.
Really?
Yes. But we weren't. La Sauvage means wild sage. You see, and that's how they identified us as wild sage, and wild sage to our people, and the Six Nation up that way. It's medicine. Same with us here. So we're the medicine people of the earth here. That's how they named us. But you see how words mean things.
Holy, like my
Words
brain is
mean
just like
things.
adjusting all of these different things. that I was taught.
Everything you probably were taught, you have to retool them now. And how are you going to reconcile with your own self?
If I don't even know what happened.
There you go. That's exactly. So now you got to
do I
start
find
teaching
out?
yourself.
Thank you, but like it's
Teach.
not that easy. I took university Indigenous 100.
Go to the people.
Toby, you're my people now.
Okay, go to the people. The people know. Go to the right people. Okay, the right people won't put the same glasses on you that are now only allowed to what you want to see. Even the other day, I went to the biggest lodge, our biggest institution, and I was told to put pants on. Yes, a Neheo, children of the earth. Okay, we are one with the earth. We were not ashamed of our body. You understand? When Mother
still
made
fit people into boxes that they're not supposed
you
to
see,
be in.
Mother Earth made us the way we are, and we are to now be proud of who we are as a being, not to covet ourselves, to be ashamed of ourselves. That's a different philosophy coming together, to where you want to cover right up to your, full shirt, right down to your ankles, no skin showing. This is a different philosophy that bled into the original human being. You see, we were proud to be who we are. And in our environment, we would now, if it's hot, we would now be half naked.
I kind of want to do that.
Well,
sometimes.
90% naked, right? One with the earth. And when it was winter, we put on clothes, you see, to warm up. So it was based on our realities, not based on ceremony, which doesn't exist. Your way of life is a ceremony. You are sacred as a human being. You see, and everything you do is a ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So therefore, if that is it, if you only see going to a certain place once a week for a couple hours, and you think that is the philosophy of now reconciling with your spirit, well, then that means you have a very long time to figure it out, right? But if you live your life sacredly as though you are a sacred being, which you are, right? That means everything you touch is sacred. And that means everything that you do is sacred. So therefore,
good energy everywhere.
So that means everything you speak of is sacred. You only speak when spoken to. You only understand when you can realize and empathize with the person. You see, if you can't empathize with someone you're talking to, then how are you ever going to understand that human being?
And get to their spot and understand them fully. Yeah, you're right.
Okay? So these are just the base philosophies. These are just the baby steps
I feel
into
like
understanding.
we have so much growing. I feel like people have had the wool just pulled over their eyes a little bit. And maybe we were intentionally being ignorant to it too. But I feel like there's...
No matter how we got here, we're here.
Yes.
And no matter where we're going, we have to go together. And that's as simple as that. So my message today is to say, everybody, let's start to individually pull our head out of the sand, start to look around at where you are, who you are, what you've become, and how can we now get to the base blanket. And this is what we call going back to the blanket, going back to your family, going back to your wakutu in relationships. Because without a relationship, you're kind of lost. You can't trust anybody. And if you can't trust nobody, then you're on an island by yourself, and it's very lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to need something to fulfill those voids. And money tends to do that very nicely. So then we now get into the capitalist understanding of self.
Yeah, and addictions and all these other
Well, all of these things come, right? Addictions, they, a lot of interviewers come to me and ask me about alcohol in First Nations. And I ponder a little bit because they're baffled, and I don't understand why they're baffled. Why our people use that medicine? And I call it medicine. I call everything medicine.
It is.
And why it is at 5 o'clock, because I'm in occupation and health. Okay, so I work with a lot of high risk construction workers, what have you. Okay, and that's general understanding.
Right.
Okay, as a person that deals but works with Mother Earth. Okay, I work with Mother Earth on a day-to-day, and Mother Earth tells me things. And this is one of the things she tells me, is that the Earth will always provide for myself, and they'll always keep me grounded. So I will always have a place to come back to.
Beautiful.
And so when 5 o'clock rolls around, okay, and if you do not have a way of life in your mind that now you can now vent and cope and relate to this high stress environment, you're going to go to a medicine that's readily available and that's easy to do, and that now is marketed for the mass consumption. And it has a stamp by the government now. Not the new stamp that just came in, actually a holistic one, which is cannabis, but the older one, which is alcohol. So at 5 o'clock, or no, let's say 6:30, and it depends on if it's in town. Go to any bar, and who do you see in there? Well, you'll see workers in there. And why do you see workers in there? Because they need that medicine now just to calm down from the day before they go home, before they meet their family. You see, and this is a Eurocentrical mindset. Okay, and now us Indigenous people, why did they call it spirits?
I don't know, but now I'm like, wow, like I never thought of that in the
and it's spelled the same.
Yeah.
I'll just leave you with that tidbit. But look at it from a bigger picture of society, of people that now we've watched your people come. Do you understand that? We've watched you come to our shore. We watched you put up your tents. We watched you build your cities. We watched you build everything, society and how it works. We've watched you to this very day, and now we're saying something. We have now, humanity has come to a precipice where all of us natural human beings are now tasked through our societies and our clans to now start speaking out about the truth. So the truth is now coming as a freight train, as though the deception was. So now everything is going to be now revealed to everyone, and because it is needed now.
It clearly, when you hear one sentence and I have a bunch of propaganda coming out of my mouth, we need it.
Yes, because the truth lies in the middle. You see, the Indian Act system that now controls our people is now putting a lot of things, and it's bled right into our quote unquote ceremonies. Okay, so those ceremonies now, like I said, I went to the highest lodge, our highest institution, and was told to put on pants. You see, as an a dancer myself, you see, that is like, put on a suit and tie and go
You're
sit.
not putting on, getting into their shoes, their perspective at all. And that's even within your own community. You found
That's exactly. So it's now entrenched into now a lot of different people that hold the Indian Act higher than actually our own way of life. The people. Yeah, so it is going to be a real turn of events coming up once we start to dissect some of these things, the facade that a lot of our people have just grown up to know, right? So that reconciliation is more for Canada. Canada named it. Canada said sorry that we did these things. Canada said reconciliation. And then they told their business partners, use that word to gain insight into the First Nations, so the businesses of First Nations would be able to now deal with you and reconcile. So really, reconciliation is from an economic point of view. So First Nation businesses can access non-First Nation businesses, and non-First Nation businesses can legally and socially now deal with First Nations, and that's what really is happening. Reconciliation is from an economic development point of view. That's all it is.
It should be coming from a person-to-person point of view.
Well, there's persons running these organizations, right? And that's where the slippery slope is. You'll get reconciliation if you have a person that's running the business that actually understands that there's reconciliation to be done, but now it's under the guise of a registered corporation. And these registered corporations are exactly that. An Indian band is a registered corporation under the Indian Act, you see. They're corporate systems. So organizations that fulfill goods and services to First Nations are the exact same thing. They're a corporate entity that now takes up space, right? That can get contributions from the government, which holds our land in trust in a subsequent account in Great Britain. There's probably trillions of dollars there running annually in the billions, and that's what the contributions to all First Nations get annually, that they sign a contract. And some of them now are signing grants for 10 years. And that's a new system that's coming because, well, we are still the landholders, we're unceded. So that the original members over here are still having difficulty with the Indian Act system because a lot of our representation comes from it.
Interesting. Reconciliation for me as a girl growing up in Regina means something different to me. Like, I know what you've just told me, if I heard you correctly, you were saying reconciliation for you is, within yourself, knowing your history and understanding where you come from. And when I hear the word reconciliation, and I could be completely wrong, this is just how I've kind of thought of it as, was where people like you and I could be in the same room together and understand each other and then try to get to a better place. That's what I thought reconciliation was. And I'm thinking if I keep on working towards that, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. To a point, reconciliation will come between humans. You see, but first it starts in your backyard. First it starts with your family. First it starts with your children. And first it starts with your aunties, uncles, brothers, sisters. And then once the family recognizes, they can start to reconciliate with other humans. And then they can come out of the shadow and say, you know what? We talked about this. We understand what our view was at a point, right? And that view was, maybe not the standard understanding. But this is where it was coming from. And now that we have done the work, you see, the work means find out that you're a spirit. How do you do that? Find out that you're a human being and a human being with purpose. How do you do that? Find out that you have to now reconciliate with Mother Earth first and foremost. Yeah. Before you reconciliate with me, okay, a guy sitting across from you, reconciliate with Mother, the one that gave you life. If you can't reconciliate with Mother, then you'll never reconciliate with another human being. You see? Because you haven't given the time or space to Mother, to in which she is life. And without it, then good luck to you.
You're right, though.
Yeah. So therefore, reconciliate with your Mother. Right? Reconciliate with even the air, right? Oh, talk to the air. What the heck? Are you crazy? But you see, now these are the context, your environment. Reconciliate. I have done something to it. My family has done something to this land. And there is a harm that had happened to the land. And if you don't reconciliate that harm that you've been doing to Mother, then how can you speak to Mother's children with any kind of validity?
I love that.
Right? How can you?
True. It's so true.
And you can't.
I really think if we could go back to the 1800s and have history changed, I feel like I wish our British ancestors would have listened and not pushed their beliefs, but heard yours. I wonder what place we would have been in if people had lived like that throughout the last, 300 years versus this capitalist kind of lifestyle.
You know what? In my understanding of my way of life, everything happens for a reason. Every single thing. And in the universal context of self that I understand, there is no right or wrong. There is no up or down. There's no left or right. There is no hate and good. There is only the universe of light and sound. It moves, it flows, and only the ego depends if it's good or bad.
I love that. You know what, on that note, I think it's the perfect time to end. Thank you so much. I really think that you have a wonderful way of explaining things. And I also really would encourage you to consider joining CJTR and have a show so that you can spread this word out of what you've learned into your life from your ancestors. I think that there's a lot of people that are very interested in what you're saying and would open their ears up to you.
Well, the voice of a few can help the many. And that's what I was told. So, a part of my healing journey as well is to speak. That is part of one of the societies that I hold as a responsibility. So it is my responsibility to speak out. And unfortunately, some of the things are very taboo in which I talk about. They're not talked about, not by non-First Nations, and definitely not by First Nations. We don't like to, put labels on things, of course, but we have to understand the root of where things are coming from so we can make better decisions for the children that are unborn that are coming here, that our ancestors are gifting us with, and that we have responsibilities to them. Not just to the children here on this earth plane, but the ones that are lined up waiting to come, and that we need to have a safe place for them. And it's all about safety. Safety in spirituality, safety in culture, safety in your way of life, safety living on earth and how we safely do that with Mother Earth, understanding her laws, and then safety within our own humanity. How do we now pull back on some of the needs rather than the wants, right? And then now, how do we understand sovereignty within our own self? How do you be sovereign? Are you able to go in your backyard and feed yourself? Are you able to connect with the tree spirit and now heal yourself through the energy of Mother Earth? All of these things are readily available to you. It's just that we've been conditioned not to access these access points through our sixth dimension, which is now our sixth sense.
I think that if we all try and connect that way, though, we're going to be a lot better. And I really look forward to hearing you share more, because I will be there with my ears open.
Well, I thank you, dear, for the opportunity. And of course, Nonaskawan, I thank Creator for giving me this opportunity to meet you and to come to your radio station here and to speak to your audience. I know a lot of people are lost and confused with respects to who we are as people, and not only the non-First Nation, but even our own people, because of residential school and the dogmatic views of religion sects that have now thrusted their way into our quote-unquote ceremonies now. That I see a lot of that Christianity and other religions that have now made their way into our ceremonies, and these are not just from 100 years ago. These are 200, maybe even 300 years, to where if we don't connect to Mother Earth and
we're going to lose it.
Grandmother water is the memory of Mother Earth. So if we know how to access that, then you can remember how that used to be and live by those principles. So I thank you again.
Thank you so much. And all of you guys, be well. Bye now. I loved it.
Good.
I really did.
Good.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot about telling you to be in a show.
That's all right.
It's a good little push.
No, I it's one of the mandates I told Gord.
Isn't he wonderful?
Well, I've known Gord for 20 years.
I've known him and his wife, Val, for like 5. Not nearly as much as you, but I tell you, kind people that just
I started a provincial organization, me and him.
So he started that with you.
Well, I did the heavy lifting, but without him, it wouldn't have been possible.
He was encouraging you?
No, more than that. Way deeper than that. Way deeper.
He meets with me monthly.
That's good.
Good. And it's really helped me to kind of have traction and focus, because what I was doing was too much of everything and not doing a good enough job at one.
Quality rather than,
Everything went okay?
I think so.
I think
Perfect.
I
so.
think everything
There
went
it
great.
is. Cell phone's on there as well, but my email's on the front side if you have any questions.
Sure. So I'll just do a brief blurb.
Yeah. It was
About
like
what the
one
show-
paragraph.
What you're thinking.
Yeah.
I also put on there plain air, just because you can apply for a full show, or if you want to test it out, plain air is our artist in residence program. So you can do like a month of programming, and it's every Saturday and Sunday for that month.
Oh, wow.
And so you can kind of dip your toes in the water and kind of get used to.
So how's the
radio
longest
and
show? How long is the longest show?
We have 2-hour shows.
Oh, that would be
usually.
it. Yeah.
But yeah,
I think so, because
Yeah.
we could have talked, like we did 30 minutes or 27 minutes.
And I try to hit some of the highlights, but oh man, there's.
We could have talked for 4 hours, I think.
Well, one of my classes is 10 days straight.
See, like that's
See? So
that's what you
can
gotta
they
talk about is
straight
get
and-
people coming out to those
and
learning.
they come and they engross themselves, and when they walk away, they're literally a different human being.
I want to try that. I
Yeah.
could use that.
Human being
My
that now
anxiety
is
ate my life up for real.
well, and that's it. That's it. I was in Montreal for a week.
I'm gonna leave this here.
I
Is
just
that
got
okay?
back
Yeah, please do.
from Montreal,
sit
and
under
oh
there
my
so it
God,
doesn't
the
get
people
lost.
that are in Montreal are
Either there or up on top.
Yeah.
they're lost. They're lost.
Yeah.
They're lost. And so when I speak like this, I don't speak to the human ego. I don't speak to the human. I speak to your heart, you see, and your mind and your spirit.